Okay, let's we got some Padre talk here. This is from Tom, and he says, "Hey, the Padres, they're losing 8-0 in a practice game. Let's get to May 1st before overreacting to what is happening on the field."
Tom, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I don't care one iota what the final score was, but it was a bit shocking. I spilled the coffee when it was 8-0 in the top of the first inning, and the Dodgers were at bat in a 36-minute top of the first inning. But only thing that was important is Joe Musgrove got his pitches in. He threw 24 pitches, didn't get any outs, couldn't locate the ball. He got tagged for a couple of hits, etc. The most important thing is that Musgrove wakes up tomorrow morning and has no problem with that shoulder capsule, and he can do his regimen between his starts, because that's the only important thing, that there's no setbacks at all. And it'll be the same thing with Yu Darvish once he gets to pitch, maybe at the end of the weekend or the first of next week in the Cactus League, because those are two most important guys on their pitching staff right now. And then obviously you'll have all the other storylines. You know, Jackson Merrill got killed in left field on the first ball, made a great catch in the second inning. He's trying to learn to play left field. Those are all storylines we're going to follow, and who hits, and do we have a legitimate DH, et cetera, and which young arm surfaces, et cetera. So, but it was a bit of a stunner. 8-0 top of the first inning, and I was leaving home to come do this podcast, and the Dodgers were still at bat.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I was watching it, and I like you. I don't really care too much, and as long as Musgrove's healthy. But darn it, I mean, it's this big brother, little brother thing, and you get smacked upside the head the first game out of the gate. I mean, it just doesn't bode well for San Diego.
Now, sucker, March 20th, Seoul, South Korea at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
They score 8 runs in the first inning against the Padres in the opening game of the National League season. Tone of this conversation might be a little different.
Yeah, exactly. So
okay, we move on.
Doesn't go there. Okay, let's go here to Tamser talking Chargers. He says, Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, I believe the Bolts should stay at number 5 and get Bowers. I think the Bolts will draft offense this year and D next year. Why would you want to give up the number 1 tight end and 2 wide receivers to trade back?
Well, the question is the salary cap. That's the first issue. Who's going to be taken off this roster by the time we get to the draft in April? If you have to cut Joey Bosa and you have to cut Mike Williams, now your team is a little bit different, a little bit deficient in some areas. Bowers at 5, he's the tight end from Georgia. He's a great player, but that's awful high to take a tight end. This general manager came from Baltimore, where they have a history of doing creative things on draft day, either trading up or trading back. If I could trade, and Terrence, you raised a decent question. If I could trade back a bit, if I could go from 5 to 10 and still get Bowers, and I think you could at 10, because tight ends inside the top 10, that hardly ever happens. But if I could trade back to 10 and get somebody else a second or get a third round pick, if I could go 10, top of the second, another second, top of the third that I own, if we can do that to collect more assets, I think you have a better chance to get really good players in the first 3 rounds. I like Bowers. There's a tackle from Notre Dame that they're looking at. Taking him at 5 might be okay. His name is Joe Alt. Those are the top 2 I think that they've got great interest in.
Well, you've said that the Harbaugh's deal is he wants to pound the ball, So why would you get a tight end? I mean, I think he would be going for some offensive lineman, like a guard or a tackle or something like that.
That's where Alt from Notre Dame fits into the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. So, the Chargers, they're also going to be losing a lot of talent, though, because of the salary cap. They're going to be jettisoning some of these guys.
And Austin Eckler's probably leaving.
Yeah.
So you're going to need a running back somewhere, but you can get running backs second and third round. Fascinating to see. Got a lot of time going forward. And as we related, the quarterback derby is also really important. John?
Okay, let's go to Tony's picks. He says, say goodbye to conference title games. Hurts the loser too much from getting in the playoffs.
It's a big issue, but why do they do that, John?
Oh, yeah.
The money. Show me the money. Conference games are not, I don't think, are going to be as important as they have been in the past. Conference titles, I don't think, mean as much. And the tragic part of what college football's evolved into, it's lowered the value and the view of what bowl games should be. And that's a big thing. So if we're going to use the 6 New Year's Day bowl games to play the second and third rounds of the college playoffs, what's it do to the rest of the bowl games? It's like they're not that important. And that's sad. It's sad for the Holiday Bowl, all the great people who've worked so much in our long tradition and history of just the Holiday Bowl in San Diego. I don't care about the freaking LA Bowl that was created for, somebody to have
Jimmy
a place.
Kimmel Bowl?
Yeah, somebody had a place to go. But I mean, you got the Idaho Potato Bowl, the Holiday Bowl,
Yeah.
it's long-standing bowls. The Peach Bowl, the Citrus Bowl, what used to be the Tangerine Bowl. Those all carry important meanings in the community, and they get knocked down another level by this situation. So it's not a perfect science.
It's not. I just don't understand why they can't make that the first round. Some of those bowl games. But it is weird because you think you always talk about the cigar smoking guys in the back room. That's who's behind all these bowl games, right? I mean, it's like the Chamber of Commerce people, the business people, the hoteliers, the restaurants,
the TV networks.
And the TV networks.
Yes.
So yeah, they're the ones that are jockeying to get the bowl games in all these little cities. Makes you wonder if maybe that time has passed. We're in a new era now. Maybe the bowl games are a relic. What do you think?
Well, there's 43 of them now, which to me is an awful lot.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
At the end of the season, we're scuffling to see, can I find a 6 and 6 team to fill that bowl? I know, with apologies in advance, you're a pool and weed eater bowl guy, but that's an issue. I just hate to see what's happened to some of the bowls that have been devalued now. Moving on.
All right, here, let's go to Manny. He says, what do you think of the Blue Jays not doing anything in the offseason, especially signing their young stars?
Well, I mean, Toronto let Matt Chapman go, but he was a power hitting third baseman who hadn't hit for 2 years in a row. They had to pay an enormous amount of money. They lost their arbitration case to Vladimir Guerrero. They do have young players. I was a little bit surprised. I don't know that they got enough pitching, although they have this pitcher who kind of went AWOL on them last year, Alek Manoah. If he comes back to be what he was 2 years ago, then maybe that's going to solidify their pitching. So yeah, the Toronto way of doing business is catching a little bit of heat right now, but I like their everyday lineup. My goodness. You look at the guys that they've got. Aside from Guerrero, they got some guys who can hit. George Springer's been there on a big contract, and he's still there. Maybe not quite the same guy he was with the Astros, but I think they've got enough decent players there in Toronto. The pitching thing to me is kind of a bigger issue.
Well, the Blue Jays made a run at Ohtani, right? I mean, they were near the end.
They tried hard.
But they've got all those players that are sons of major league players. So
Biggio's kid.
And Bichette.
And Bichette's a fine ball player. So that's what I said. If you take Vlad, Biggio, Bichette, George Springer, and there's one other free agent they just signed, off the top of my head, I can't remember. But they've got enough legitimacy in their batting order. The question is, do they have enough pitching?
Okay, moving on. Okay, let's go here to Tony also says, Sig, we just covered that one. My bad. Okay, so let's go here to T. Will. And he says, Hacksaw, what do you think of Le'Veon Bell wanting to rejoin the Steelers? Do you think it'll happen?
No, absolutely not. Here's a prime example of a guy making a really bad decision that wiped out his career. Le'Veon Bell was a really good running back, run and catch in Pittsburgh's offense. Was franchise tagged. Said, I'm not signing that contract. Now, franchise tag number, I think at that time for him might have been, I want to say 11 million. Sat out a year. Didn't play for a whole year. That's a year you never get back.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Your athletic ability, that's one less year of your athletic ability. And then he bounced around and he wound up going to the Jets. And it wasn't the Le'Veon Bell who had been in Pittsburgh. And he's moved around then. Then he had junk off the field and all types of problems there. That's a guy, for whatever reason, listen to his posse, listen to his family, listen to his agent. Why would you sit out a year when you had the chance to make, I think the franchise tag number of that year was 11 mil. And the Steelers, who don't have a history of wasting money, said, you want to be here? Leave. We want guys who want to be Steelers.
Yeah.
And his career never amounted to anything from that point on. Last I heard he was trying to be a boxer and he got knocked out. So, he was going to do the UFC thing and he got floored. Just these guys, I don't understand why they make the decisions they make when we're talking state-of-the-art money to continue your career at a higher level.
Yeah, they're getting bad advice. But, you got to take the money. It's like a bird in the hand is worth more than two in the bush, as they say. So, sitting out, I mean, that's just dumb. I mean, what are these guys thinking?
He obviously wasn't thinking, and he's not the only one. It's happened other places. Okay, carry on. Fans forum.
Okay, let's go to Steve talking Ducks here. Hey, is it time for the Ducks to part ways with Verbeek? The GM is lost and the team is a huge mess. Us fans are tired of the constant losing. Last week, 9-2 loss to Toronto is pathetic.
Yeah, got killed in Toronto, and prior to that, got smoked. I think it was in Buffalo. It's really tough to force feed young kids, and they've got virtually all their young kids are up there playing right now. Now they've been beset by injuries. That's not Verbeek's fault. But I saw something last night I haven't seen in a while. A lot of empty seats at the Honda Center. Used to be the Pond for Ducks hockey. Are they making progress? The poor goaltender's getting pelted. He's got such a young group of blue liners in front of him, and those guys are playing well. Jackson Lacombe is a player. Mintyukov, the Russian, is a player, and they're playing lots of minutes with Cam Fowler. Don't have enough goal scoring, but they got their guys hurt. I mean, McTavish has been in and out of the lineup. Verbeek is not to blame for what's happened to Trevor Zegras. But some of the young guys they thought were going to evolve as third and fourth year guys, some of their wingers and forwards, young guys, Max Jones, just not scoring goals. So it's a real tough call. But Verbeek has his blueprint. But, that's what I was shocked they traded Jamie Drysdale to Philadelphia. He was another one that was a high draft pick that got force-fed and I thought played well. And I'm even more shocked now with these rumblings out of Montreal that the Canadiens are talking to the Ducks about Trevor Zegras. You're going to get all these draft picks, but somewhere these draft picks have to evolve into be quality players to rebuild you. And if you keep trading the younger guys away, like Drysdale, and I go move Zegras, those are supposed to be the cornerstones going forward. So on those of you on my old Canada line probably have an opinion about that. Go ahead, John.
I sit here next to you doing this podcast, and we get these questions, from live stream viewers, and man, you just boom, like you have all the data, you have all the information. Do you sleep at night? I mean, because you're constantly writing content. I'm trying to keep up with you with the best 15 minutes in sports and getting it out to Hacksaw's Insiders Group. I mean, what do you do at home?
That's all I do is I follow it. I make notes. I write about it. I write on my website every day. And then obviously we put this creative stuff together. I do the same thing at KUSI. I do the Saturday morning sports report at 6:30. That's what I do. So, John, just tell your wife you have this game to watch. Please don't bother me. That's all there is to it. But you are right. I am bleeping brilliant.
You are. It's unbelievable. Okay, let's go on here to Schickster. He says, hey, is the franchise tag a good thing or a bad thing for teams, for players?
Legitimate question. This is an NFL question. But here's the issue. The franchise tag is a figure that is based on the top 5 average salaries of the player at that position. So, John, you're a running back. You've had 2 good seasons. You're a free agent. They can franchise tag you. They take the 5 top salaries, they average it out. That's the franchise tag for 1 year. That's a significant amount of money. I think the running backs this year, I think the franchise tag is going to be $12.8 million.
Wow.
On a 1-year deal. Now, the bottom side of that, you have no security. You get hurt in a game, you suffer something significant in a game, you did not get a signing bonus, and you don't have a contract a year or 2, year 3, because you're tagged. Tagged is only 1 year. So the player gets a payday, but there's a sidebar risk involved if the guy gets hurt or the guy doesn't have the good season. What does it do to your value the following year? Which is why running backs, they want 3-year deals and they want a signing bonus.
Yeah.
And they want a chunk of the 3 years guaranteed so that they have some security. If they get hurt, they'll still have a place to play and a chance to play themselves back. But not many teams do it because of the amount of money. I mean, it's a big amount of money. Your left tackle, I want to say the franchise tag number on left tackle might be $14 million.
Wow.
Wide receivers, the skull guys, that could be as high as 16, 17 million. Pass rushers really high. So you're taking a chunk out of your salary cap to give it to John Riley, the running back. So I think last year there were a total of maybe 14 players got franchise tagged. And when you get franchise tag, you can either sign the tag and play 1 year, or you can still negotiate a multi-year deal. But most clubs don't do that. Once they tag you, say that's the dollar value. We're not going to go back and give you more. We're not going to give you a 3-year contract at that point. So no franchise tags offered yet. Might be 8 franchise tags this year, maybe 14, but it's not like it was before.
I think it's a bad deal for the players. because imagine if you were working in a corporation and you got franchise tagged and you couldn't like go to another job. You were stuck and maybe you have problems with management, other people going on in the organization, and then they franchise tag you and you're stuck there for another year. And I'm sure you get a payday. But I don't know. What happened first? Was it the franchise tag in the NFL or the Larry Bird rule in the NBA?
Good question. I think it was a franchise tag. That goes back a couple of different CBAs ago.
Mm-hmm.
The Larry Bird rule, I think, was kicked into effect in the NBA because the NBA developed its salary cap. And then the agents went back and said, we need to have some variations of the salary cap. We need to have, quote, exceptions.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, the Larry Bird rule, I believe, is if you're a free agent, you're an in-house free agent. And we have a salary cap. You're an in-house free agent. I can sign you to any amount of money. It does not impact the salary cap. It's a Larry Bird rule.
Mm.
Like LeBron James could be a free agent. And top price for a top star in the league is going to be $50 million. Lakers can sign him to $50 million if they want to, but it doesn't impact what the Lakers have to do with the rest of the NBA salary cap. That's the Larry Bird rule. But the agents control the NBA because now they put in all these different exceptions to the salary cap rule. If you trade a guy, there's what they call the mid-level exemption. You get so much money you can use to go get a different player based on the amount of money of the player who got traded. It's really complicated. I apologize in advance, full disclosure. The day they taught sports law at Ohio University, I cut class. I went drinking uptown with a girlfriend. So I wasn't there the day they taught me about the salary cap, but I know what it is. It's really complicated.
Well, they put it in trying to make the game more competitive. So there's some parity in the league. Mm-hmm. But with all these exceptions, still the big markets get LeBron, right? So does it really work?
It works, I think, as it relates to trades. But the downside of the salary cap in the NBA now is everybody's trading and dumping contracts, not trading and dumping players.
Mm.
Prime example is what just happened. Dino Gallinari, a longtime shooting forward NBA, pretty established player, 14 points per game in his career, monster contract. Charlotte gets rid of him, puts him in a package, sends him to Toronto. Toronto takes him, tells him, don't bother boarding a plane. We're going to buy you out. They dump the contract. This is happening all the time in the NBA. Guy gets a chunk of his money in the buyout, but the guy doesn't get to play in the NBA. It's just, again, agents. They saw the salary cap and say, okay, how can we finagle this around to make it different? Next question.
Okay, here, let's go to Rob. He says, I'm intrigued by what the Dolphins are going to do with Tua.
Well, they have to give him big money. I mean, he is the guy.
Mm-hmm.
They spent the high draft picks to get the guy. And the guy played pretty well last year. He stayed on the field. He did not get hurt. And they had a pretty good season until the end of the season, although lost in all the conversation about the Sunshine offense was the fact they were 1-6 against good teams. They played big boys. They got punched in the mouth, and the offense went away, and then they lost to the Weatherman, and it was Kansas City or Buffalo. They got
Kansas City.
Yeah, Kansas City. The Weatherman beat him in that game. So now he's really gifted. He's going to get a payday. Will he be the top paid quarterback in the league? No, but he's going to get a payday.
Now, didn't he take Jalen Hurts' starting job with Alabama, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how that went down.
Hurts transferred.
Say what?
Jalen Hurts transferred. He went to Oklahoma.
He went to Oklahoma, but that was because they were playing Tua a lot when Jalen Hurts was the starting quarterback. And didn't Nick Saban prioritize Tua as the number one? And then Jalen kind of got booted. But now you look at their NFL careers, which one do you like better?
Oh, Hurts had great success early, hadn't had great success later. Tua's had one great year, 2 years of injuries. So I think the jury's still out. I think Hurts is a more complete quarterback because Hurts does run the football. And he's big and physical. Hurts isn't Lamar Jackson, but he's damn close.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I think Hurts is a more complete guy, but Tua's gifted. And what Tua did last year and how they restructured the offense after the back-to-back concussion issues, I mean, he gets the ball out of there. He's a smart dude. And he went through all offseason in training with Michael Vick, I was told, to learn about the offense and how to handle what was going on physically in the league. And he hardly got sacked. He hardly took any hits. The one thing about Miami, with all the motion and everything McDaniels did there as head coach, he gets the ball out of there so quick. You can't get to him. So, I mean, that's a byproduct of his talent, his learning curve, and obviously the structure of what they're running. Move on here.
Moving on. It's kind of like Dan Marino with that quick release. Yeah. So let's go here to Comet. And he says, Hacksaw, should taking a clapper at the empty net be a penalty?
I don't think so. Well, you're making reference. I'm not sure quite when you say taking a clapper. Is that a cross check? Are you defending Morgan Riley, or are you telling me what he did was garbage? Um, the Ottawa player. Why would he make an emphatic slap shot into an open net? That kind of like showing up the other guy.
Yeah, but it's for the fans.
Yeah, but hey, Morgan Riley should have damn played better. You wouldn't be down a goal with a minute to go and then give up an empty netter to make sure the game was lost. Play better. I thought it was a cheap shot. And the thing that bothered, I saw it and I almost fell off the couch. I mean, the biggest thing in the National Hockey League and the NFL is the whole concussion thing, blows to the head. And Morgan Riley is a rock solid, steady veteran who does not have a history of being a cheap shot artist. For him to just lose his mind and go across the ice and whack him right here, snapped his head. Is there a lot inherent danger in acting like that?
Yeah, I mean, he's probably watched that Slapshot movie a few too many times.
Oh,
hey, can we get some social media questions?
Do it to it.
Do it to it. All right, here we go. Let's talk Aztecs here. And this is from Ben here a while. And he says, can anyone tell me what San Diego State Athletics did to the Mountain West refs' wives and girlfriends that they get absolutely jobbed every frickin' game? When we have 7 fouls against us to start and the other team only 2 consistently, something is up. Basketball is the easiest game to manipulate from an officiating standpoint, and the Mountain West refs have been doing it to us every single game.
The only issue, and I'll take issue with what you said, the only issue I have with the refs is for some reason there is an undercurrent of feeling that they are intimidated by home crowds, that they call games at Viejas differently than they would somewhere else. And they call games for the home team at some of these other venues that have become real hotspots. And that should not be the game. A foul is a foul. Now, that being said, we got one of the best big men San Diego State has ever had, maybe ever dating back to Michael Cage. And Kawhi Leonard was a different type of player than Jaden Ledee is. And he's so physical, and he draws double coverage, and he gets pounded a lot. But by the same token, you look at San Diego State's defense. They are always doing this.
Oh, constantly.
I mean, and that's what makes their defense so great. I'm surprised they don't have more fouls called on their guards for doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Banging and whacking and hacking and stealing the ball, and turnovers going the other way. They don't get as many fouls called there. But in terms of Ledee, what the coaching staff needs to do, and they have done it recently, they need to move him. They move him a lot of places. They run him high post now up in the foul line, and he starts the offense through him. They run him low post where they get it to him, he turns, and he can take a shot. Or they locate him in the middle of the lane, and as they move the ball around, he gets the ball, short jumper, which he is really polished. But I have a problem with the Mountain West officials seemingly influenced by the loud crowds. The rest of it just the style of basketball that San Diego State invites to play. And they're bad boys. Their bad boys do whack and hack.
Yeah, well, Ledee gets mugged. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But, Mark Ziegler talks a lot about this in his UT articles about the referees. He comments every time. Now, he said that some of those refs in the Mountain West were refereeing the Super Bowl. So you would think that these would be top of the line guys. How could they be subconsciously influenced, or is it just human?
I don't think it's them. They had an NFL ref this past weekend at Utah State. I thought they did a really good job. But I think there are some younger refs that somehow either get influenced, intimidated, or some of the calls are just, wow, where'd that come from? Or how come that didn't happen? And, the call should have been on the home team and it wasn't on the home team. Now, I think Ziegler does a hell of a job. He puts so much context to the quality of the columns that he's writing. There's so much background information as to how he got to the point. I think Mark Ziegler is just a great journalist.
Yeah, he's a terrific journalist, but Aztec fans are always down on him because he doesn't vote for the Aztecs for the AP poll as much as they think he should. Hey, let's go here to this is a Dodger comment. This is from David. He says, Lee, where do I send the Dodger sweatshirt that you can wear during your podcast?
Well, my email address is right on my website. You email me, and I promise I will respond and email you back. Dodger fan piling on. First game of the Cactus League in the first inning, the Dodgers score 8 runs, and Dodger fan David is just piling on.
Well, you're wearing Dodger blue today.
Yeah.
Yeah, you come rolling in with that. So, hey, let's go here. Let's talk a little NBA. And this is from Nuance, John. And he says, Hey, I watched some of the clips of the 93 and 94 All-Star games as well as 98, and it was a whole different game. No way those players would have tolerated playing a warm-up session as any kind of an actual game. It needs a serious reset.
Well, I don't know how you reboot it, because the injury factor is a big thing. You don't want to be an NBA guy with the third of the season still to go and playoff spots on the line and go down and blow out a knee or an Achilles on a layup or get clotheslined on a play like that. So that's a big issue. Somebody emailed me and said, Lee, what they should do is make it financially viable, big time. Put a big time pot of money out there at center court, and the winning team gets to divvy up the pot. To which I say, timeout. These guys are making 40 and 50 million per year, and now we're supposed to reward them for playing a meaningless exhibition game. The NBA Cup, the winning team, the Lakers, the NBA Cup, they got $500,000 a man.
Wow.
So LeBron, who's making 41 mil, gets a half mil payday for winning the NBA Cup, which to me is nothing more than a game in November. Do we have to do that? You want to do something valuable? Take that pot of gold and send it to Ukraine aid, or send it to Gaza Red Cross aid. Mm-hmm. Do something different. I don't think we need to be giving rich men even more money to play the game. Oh, here comes the hate. Go ahead. Your response.
Do you think all-star games are maybe a thing of the past? Because, at one time we never got to see like the stars in the American League, and it was great to see them in an all-star game, and it was a novelty.
Baseball's all-star game still has meaning because they play hard, and there is color and pageantry. Now, back in the day when you and I were young dogs, we didn't get to see all these games Monday through Friday on all the different channels. So it was kind of novel to see the Baltimore Orioles, Frank Robinson, because I never got to see Frank Robinson hardly at all on TV. But now all the games are on TV and all the NBA games are on TV. So, yeah, we can see Giannis, but what's the big deal? I see Giannis on Tuesday. I don't need to see him in the All-Star game and an exhibition game. Everybody that I know has written about it said this, 211 to 186 East victory over the West was just an utter disgrace. Why are we even doing this?
Yeah, it's nuts. I want to share one all-star memory. I remember I was a kid in the 70s following the Giants, and they were terrible. And they would always get one guy to make the team, right? Because every team had a representative. So I remember Jack Clark, I think he was a rookie in 77, 78. And I'm the whole game, here I'm like 8 years old, and he finally gets his at-bat in the seventh inning and he grounds out. And you're like, and I used to look forward to that game to see if my guys would perform, and they always typically didn't quite do it. But the other all-star memory, have you ever seen that classic photo of those dudes on a pickup truck over Qualcomm Stadium, Jack Murphy Stadium, with the television and beers and taking it all in? That's just a great sports photo.
They got to solve the problem. It's not a problem in Major League Baseball. It definitely is a problem. The NBA, NFL Pro Bowl has now evaporated, and obviously the NHL situation too. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our podcast.